your one-stop solution to everything learning. Verzeo, 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 your one-stop solution to everything learning.
Hello guys, how are you doing? Okay, guys, your live chat is available and it is up and running. You can just let me know before we start that you can hear me properly and you guys are able to see me also. Hello everyone, you can just ping me. Very good evening, Akhil. How are you doing? Great. Okay, I believe the audio is clear. Let's proceed with today's session. And today's webinar gonna be on introduction to cybersecurity and bug bounty. Before we go with that, it's Ajay Billav here, and I'm gonna be your host for this session. And we would be having an amazing session going ahead. And I would like to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Sagar Jain. Let me go ahead with his introduction. Sagar Jain had completed his BTech in computer science from prestigious Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University, and he had started his journey as an intern at Sysdon Info Solution, and then he switched to other companies like HP and yeah, and he had served in Amazon also as application engineer. And currently, he is working at PayPal and would like to share his insights on cybersecurity. And he holds a good amount of technical knowledge in a lot of what is it programming languages and a lot of skills and tools that you have gone through. Let's not waste much time and make sure that you will be utilizing this session related to cybersecurity, that what you want to learn, what kind of career that you want to take further, and whatever doubts that you have related to cybersecurity, ethical hacking, the career related to that, you can ask Sagar Jain. I think he would be the best person to provide you the insights on it. So let's not waste much time. I would be handing it over to Sagar. It's all yours. You can proceed.
Thanks, Ajay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sagar.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, so my name is Sagar Jain, as you guys already are aware of. So I am working as a SD3 at PayPal right now. I've previously worked with Amazon as a software engineer and HP as well. Uh, what we are going to talk today about is the cybersecurity and bug bounty. I am very much passionate about bug bounties, basically. So I have been doing bug bounties from past 5 years, I would say. I try to see systems. I try to basically see whether I can change them somehow, the way they react and things like that, right? So as a software engineer, we deal with a lot of APIs, we deal with a lot of services and products, and as a user as well, right? As an end user, you also basically deal with a lot of services. What we are going to do today is we are going to try to look at what exactly it takes to really find some bugs, right? We don't really need to understand a lot about SQL injection, a backdoor policy, or something else, basically, which is the core of cybersecurity. But what we are going to take a look today is we are going to take a look at how a software engineer can actually try to find some bugs, basically in different systems, basically what they are dealing with, right? I have myself found bugs in Uber, Cred, Ola, Amazon, Google. So the systems are vulnerable. And what we really need to just see is we need to keep an eye. That's what I will say. So let's get started. Let's get some ethical hacking started. So what we're going to talk about is cybersecurity and bug bounty here. But let's start simple actually, right? Let's say you would have seen this receipt, foodie.com. They basically you made a payment, you made an order that created a payment, and you have a receipt. So this is your receipt. This looks good. The receipt ID is 1234, but seems a little bit off to me. What I would try to do is I will try to change it. That's the very first thing which I will try to do with this URL. Let's change it to 1233. Let's try to see whether I can actually find somebody else's receipt, right? That is nothing but insecure direct object reference. What we are doing is maybe somewhere some software engineer actually could have put the database entry like just give them the receipt when the ID is called. They are not trying to actually authenticate with it. So this is nothing but IDOR, which is insecure direct object reference. You would find a lot of URLs like this, but let's take a deep look on this, right? So let's say you have this URL, which is your receipt. What you should do is open an incognito mode and try to open that URL. So you see the content of that receipt. If you are, that means there is some bug, right? There's authentication missing. The authentication is missing altogether because you did not log in. The server does not know you. And what exactly we are doing is we are able to get the content of that receipt, which was yours, right? So that is basically authentication missing altogether. But let's take another example where the scenario is something like you have logged into your account and you try to log in or try to see actually somebody else's receipt. So we change the receipt ID there, and are we able to see the content of it? If yes, then there is something wrong. So we are authenticated to the server. They know basically this is Sagar Jain who has logged in, but still Sagar Jain is able to see somebody else's receipt. That means there's something missing, which is authorization. Sagar Jain is not authorized, or this particular user is not authorized actually to see the receipt of somebody else. So that is a very common bug which you can actually, wherever you try to see a number attached to that URL, just try to change it. There's nothing harm. What exactly it would say is maybe access denied. It will say incorrect URL or you're not allowed to see that or something else, right? The 500 error. But if you are able to see the content of it, that means there is something wrong. And what you really would want to do is you would want to take that bug, report it to somebody, right? Maybe to the company or to the person basically who is generating the receipts and things like that. Let's take another example, another scenario altogether, right? So we all do shopping. We go to Amazon, we go to Flipkart. Let's say basically we have another company, a $1 billion unicorn, Amazcart, right? So what we are trying to do is we are trying to actually create an order here. So in today's world, you would not find it, but you can still find these type of things like the JSON containing the ID, the values. The JSON basically passed into as a query parameter, right? We can generally see that in some URLs. So what exactly is happening here is a user is trying to place an order. Basically, what it says is the details contains the ID is 2. That means most probably it's the product ID. The price of that particular, let's call it a shoe. So the price of that particular shoe is 1,000 rupees. And then you have a quantity which you're trying to order is 1, right? What if we can actually order this particular product at 10 rupees? Let's try to change the URL. Let's just basically try to make that URL as rupees 10. What if that, oh, at the next page, basically, let's say you're trying to make a payment of rupees 10, then there's a bug there, basically, which is allowing you to order kind of free products because you can actually make that price as 1 as well. So that's a big bug with something like Amazcart. But let's say they have a validation. The software engineer is not that basically stupid that they have no validation on price. Let's say they have the validation on price, right? That's okay. You get basically an error saying that the price of the ID 2 is 1,000 rupees, not 10. Let's try to change the quantity as 4. That can work. What if they don't have a validation on quantity, or they don't have a mutual authentication, or the validation on price and quantity? What if they are not doing the math? And let's try to change the quantity as 4, which will still basically make the product as 250 rupees for us, right? If the order goes through. So that's nothing but URL tampering. You can always try to change the URL because you might not be able to validate it. There's a possibility. So that's what basically we are doing here, trying to tamper the URL. So that's pretty sweet. We were able to actually get somebody else's information. We were also able to basically order some few products basically for free. So the idea is not to actually get the products for free. The idea is to find these bugs as software engineers, as upcoming software engineers, as security consultants, right? Find these bugs and report it to the people or to the employer, basically, right? To the company. Because the reward basically in that, when you're trying to make things right, the reward is quite huge. So that's what I will say. Basically, try to find bugs in a good, ethical manner where you would want to actually get paid for that, right?
Hi Sagar, sorry to
Yep.
interrupt. Can you just check the internet connection? There might be a bit lag.
Okay.
I think it's proper now.
Okay,
It
that's
should.
fine. Let's move on. Let's move on to the unauthorized access. So we use a lot of social media today, right? We have Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Everybody is behind the social media. What we are going to do is, let's say we are on our company Twinsta, which is basically the merger of Twitter and Instagram. And what we are going to do is we are editing our profile, let's say. So what we are doing here is, as a user Sagar Jain who is logged in, we are actually trying to edit that. And what happens next is we are able to see it, right? What if we try to change that username? What happens in that scenario? Whether the system will allow us or not, right? So that is basically, let's try to change it to Elon Musk. What if we are able to change or edit the profile of somebody else? That's a big breach, basically. So what we are really trying to do is trying to get that unauthorized access, and once we find it, we will try to report it to different companies, right? So now we have understood what exactly is happening from the top levels, right? We are not going to stop there. What I really want to show you today is I really want to take one system, a production live system, which is pre-charged. What we are going to do is try to understand their APIs. We will try to actually try to fiddle around their APIs. We will actually see how they're authorizing it, authenticating it, and also try to see what exactly we can change in the API calls so that we can actually find some bugs there. That's basically what we're going to do in the live demo. So I'm logged into the free charge here. I think hope everybody should be aware of free charge. Before we delve into what exactly free charge do or what exactly we are going to do today, I want to make sure that we are all on the same page. So basically, you have an inspect here on a browser. So how it happens is you have the browser. The browser actually creates a request for you and then send it to the server. Somewhere basically a server which is a free charge. Whether you're trying to log in, whether you're trying to see your transactions or trying to do a recharge, basically, right? Trying to actually create a request, you're going and then send it to the server. The pretty dumb actually. Browser creates a whole request and sends it to the server. We can change that request in the middle. That's what we are going to find our bugs in, right? So this is the browser. Let's see how actually we can see what are the requests being sent. So I have the inspect here. What I can do is click on this inspect, and then there is a network tab. This basically records everything, literally everything what browser is sending to the server, and we can see sometimes they might be encoded or encrypted, but a lot of times the data is just visible to naked eyes, right? You can see what exactly is being sent, how it is being authenticated. So we deal with APIs daily. So what we are going to do today is we are going to take a look at the APIs of Recharge and see what really we can do, and what are the places where we can actually change something. So let's dive into it. So before we get into that, let's take a look little bit good look on the network tab. So you have preserve logs here, which I generally keep enabled so that if there is a redirection which happens, then I will be able to see the rest of the API calls as well. Then there is something called all and fetch. All shows all the type of requests, which is basically your JavaScript. If they're trying to log something, trying to monitor the user, what exactly they are doing, what they clicked on, everything basically. It's a lot of network calls which it makes. But I generally try to keep it at fetch and XHR, which basically shows me the API calls. And then a very good button, which is the clear button. When I basically am done with it, I can just clear all the requests and start fresh. So let's take a look. Whenever I load a free chart, what exactly happens? So there are bunch of calls in the fetch and XHR. XHR is nothing but your XML HTTP request. If I go all, you see a bunch of calls. I don't really want to know where exactly it got the image of LinkedIn and some Twitter image and things like that, which it might be showing on the last of the page, right? You would have seen them basically showing this PNG images. I'm not interested in that. I'm really looking for some APIs which is sending some data, right? So let's take a look from these APIs. Let's start fresh by logging off. So I'm gonna log out and then clear this particular network tab and I'm gonna log in there, right? So I see one API call, which is a create API call, right? It's trying to create a session for me. That's fine. Let's feed in our mobile number, basically, which we do generally. And you can see there's another API call. There's a sign up call actually we made. So I can see one of the OTP is being received. But before I feed in the OTP, let me just take this request and try to understand what exactly it is trying to sign up for, right? So I'm gonna right click on this, copy it as curl. So here I can actually copy this particular whole request and see what exactly it was sending into the server. So I'm gonna do copy as curl, open one of the text editor in here, right? This is the key. This is basically shows me everything what Precharge browser is trying to send it to their server. So there might be some information which is not really useful, like accept language or the origin of it. These requests can still work, but let's focus on the actual thing, right? So you have the mobile number being sent. It says some channel ID, the platform type is web, and then the URL. So let me just feed in the OTP as well and see how actually it validates it. So I'm feeding in the OTP, which is 9161. We are going to see that in a second. So here you can see a verify call. So there's a post call, which is the verify. Let's copy that as code as well and take a look what exactly it did. So here is the call. Let's focus on this verify call. So what it did is it basically sends an OTP ID. Okay, it sends the OTP which the user is trying to feed in, and then basically nothing else, right? There is some other cookies being set and nothing else. It is just trying to say this is the OTP. Please check if you are able to authenticate or not, right? But let's see where exactly the browser got this OTP ID. So I told you, right? The browser is pretty dumb. It does not know anything. So somewhere this browser should have gone got the OTP ID. Let's take a look at the response of this first API call, right? So I'm going to go back to the browser. The sign up basically had the request. What about the response of it, right? And the OTP ID. So now we are able to connect the dots. What happened is you signed up, you sent the mobile number, you got the OTP ID, and then the browser, what exactly it is doing is it is trying to do the OTP ID and send the OTP as well, and then maybe make some response, right? Let's take a look at the response of verify. So the verify API call had the response, which is pretty good. Basically, it has a lot of information, like as you can see, the email ID, whether it is verified or not. But this is some information only. Let's see the authentication part. So I'm going to go back to the headers. I'm going to basically take a look what exactly the server is trying to do. The server is trying to set some cookie, right? Here I can see basically the content security policy, and also it is trying to set some cookie here. This is an authentication part. So what exactly happens is you verify it, the OTP is good, then it's going to be response back saying set this cookie, which will authenticate the rest of the session. So let's not get into the very technical part of the authentication. So right, we are not really looking forward to really break this authentication because there have been a lot of teams behind Precharge who are trying to really make this good. We just want to take a look how we can actually fool them with our authentication ID or how exactly we can actually take a look at something which is not authorized. So I'm authenticated already, but I want to take a look which is not authorized. So let's take a look at few things here. So what I'm going to do is just for trying to fiddle around the login part, I'm going to do log out from here. Okay. And let's take a look, right? I cleared it off. Let's try to do a live session so that you guys can understand. You can go back and also try this with free charge and some other apps. But let's try to take a look. Let's try to do a login again. That's pretty sweet. I'm gonna feed in my which will send an OTP, but I'm not gonna feed the right OTP this time. I want to fiddle around the OTP itself. So I'm not going to basically fiddle around that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to send an API call, which is a verify API call, with some other OTP. Let's try it with 0001. I know it's a 4-digit OTP, so I can start with 0001. And what I can do is I can have the OTP ID from the response. So this is needed because it will try to authenticate or try to make sure that the OTP ID is same. So this is done. So I have the OTP ID. I have a new OTP, which I don't know whether it is right or not, but let's take a look at the response. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this API call from one of the terminals. So if you're using Windows, you can have like a command line. If you're using MacBook, you can have like an item or a terminal basically to send your API call. So this is it. What I did is I copied it as curl, got the API, modified some of it, and then sending it to the terminal. Basically, what we are doing is whatever the browser would have done, we are just doing it, right? Let's see what happens. So it says enter correct OTP. Basically, if we would have given something like this on the browser, it would have said the same thing. Please enter correct OTP. So it says enter correct OTP, resend OTP. So that's what it is saying basically, right? Now let's feed in. So this is basically what you can do is you can actually try to change the OTP ID, try to basically change the OTP number. Maybe we can even have it as a shell script and keep trying actually. So in this scenario, we can see that there's a rate limiting, so which is good at the free chart side, but you can still try to change something and try to see whether you can actually get logged in, right? Let's try to feed in the right OTP, which is 9531, and gets in. Let's log in there. So we logged in. We can see there's a bunch of API calls again being made. So that is something which we can change. Let's say we see a user ID, we can change that. Let's take a look, right? So it did the verify. It is doing some get user POI details. So it's trying to find something related to the KYC. Let's take a look at that API as well. So I'm looking for something where it says user ID, and let's say if I try to change it, that could be possible, right? So I'm gonna copy it as curl, and then gonna open it in one of the editors. I'm gonna get rid of the login API. I'm gonna go here. So it says user POI details. Nice. It does not send me any user ID. It's not even saying that Sagarjan's get Sagarjan's POI details because it is able to authenticate the session with this particular token, right? So it's able to basically, if you can see this app FC, this is the authentication token, which is actually telling free charge server that this is Sagar Jain, get the POI details of Sagar Jain. So that's what it is doing. So I can't really do anything with it because it does not really have any user ID. Let's take a look at a bunch of other things. So, okay, there's a get balance. It's trying to get a balance. Let's see what exactly the, okay, it does not send any payload and query string parameters. So nothing which I can really do because it is using that cookie, the session token to really do everything. But I can see a response display here. But what I can really do is I can also just copy it as curl and then try to hit it in my terminal, which should really give me the same response which the browser is getting. So you can see there's a general balance of 30 rupees, total balance of 30 rupees, and the other things basically related to the balance, which Freecharge really wants to send to their browser, right? So that's pretty okay. There's nothing big here. What you are actually trying to get access in the browser, it's the same thing basically which you are trying to access in the terminal as well. The major part comes in when you really want something, when you have some ideas or when you have some places where you can change something, right? So we are going to shortly look into that. So let's get to the details. Okay, this basically just shows up some details. It says the email ID. Let's take a look at what exactly it is sending. Is it sending anything or is it just the token actually? Let's take a look. So I'm going to copy it as code and I shared it basically in the text pad. Here I can see it's the user details. Okay, that's fine. Again, nothing in that. Nothing that there's no data as such being sent to Freecharge, which is pretty good. That means they have a good, strong security team, I would say, or at least the engineering team as well, right? But not so long ago, basically. I want to share one story here. So I was preparing for it. I was preparing to showcase you guys the demo for Freecharge. I was going through these APIs, and yesterday night I figured out one bug. So I figured out basically there was a bug where I was able to get access to some of the other people's data. So I would advise after this session, try to see if you can also find that bug. I'm not going to share it over here. You can try to find it. If you're able to find it, you can also report it to free charge. You can basically try to find out their bug bounty program or try to reach out to free charge basically and then basically report that bug. So that was pretty good. So I would say we will get over it. We'll see basically what are the other things which we're going to take a look at. So, okay, then there's the profile section, which just basically says something which is just getting the email ID for the profile. So that's pretty good. Not a big deal. Let's get to the interesting part, right? So here I can see the account basically has some profile details. It says Sagar is a name, and then there's a middle name or the last name as Jan, and then there's a mobile number, right? So let's take a look how exactly this got that information, right? Let's go to the inspect. So let me change it to test because I want to know what exactly the browser is doing when we update. So what it is doing is, okay, it says please enter a valid name. That's a valid name, I guess, but let's change it to something like this. And I'm gonna clear it so that I know what are the APIs being sent. So it updated the name, right? There are two APIs being called. One is a name. That's pretty okay. So what is it sending is it's sending the first name and the last name, and then it returns a response basically which is success true, right? And then there is another API which is profile. So that kind of gives me a lot more information around. Let's take a look. So it gives something like the email ID. There's a new password and old password field as well, although it is null, so which is quite good. If that could have been at the text field, so then this would have been a little bit where we can find how we can actually get this API for some other user, right? But let's focus on to the name API first, right? So I'm going to copy that as curl as what we do. So I'm going to go here, copy it as curl, and then paste it to a text pad so that I can update it. I can change something in this. So just for the sake, let's try to change it to test. And maybe let's have it okay. And I'm going to basically make this API call from the terminal. This should pretty much make the API call. And if the test validation is not there, okay, so it says apply enter a valid name because test might be something not a valid name for free chart. So let's change it to something else. Let's change it to Ajay for now. And let's change it to B and make this API call. Ideally, that should be success as true. And if I go to the browser, if I update this, it should be changed because what we did is we actually updated in the server. So that is basically this information is coming from the server. So which is pretty good. But I can see this mobile number is not being sent, and only two information is being sent, right? There is a first name, there's a last name. Okay. What if I change the mobile number as well? So what if I send a mobile number field as well? So let's take a look where exactly this mobile number is coming from, right? So I have only bunch of APIs. This profile says something in here. So maybe, okay, the mobile number is coming from here. It says the name as AJB, but mobile number is coming like this. So what I will try to do is I'll try to change the mobile number from the first API because that does not allow me. There's another flow. When I want to change it, there's another user flow, right? Let's say if I try to change it with the same API, that could be one of the bugs because let's see what happens, right? So I'm going to take this key and put it up here in this JSON, right? So I'm going to form this JSON and also put, let's say, a mobile number, which is 100. Let's try to change it to that. Just for us to change it again, if you want to, let's change the first name as well so that we'll know what exactly is getting updated or not. Okay. I'm going to this. So to be honest, this is very fun. This is so much fun when you're trying to do something and you really find something out, right, from these APIs. And that's basically pretty interesting to know. So, okay, this is illegal param error. Basically, what exactly it says is mobile number is something you can't change from this API. We can also try to change it to mobile itself, just for the sake, maybe they're using a mobile and try to make this API call. It just takes a second actually to update the call, but it says illegal parameter. It does not really want you to change the mobile that way. So that means there's another flow. What exactly you have to do is you have to click change, then there will be some API call, let's say. So as you can see, it's trying to make some API call, trying to request OTP. You can go through these APIs later on, but we're not going to get into that. The idea is you understand that we were able to update the profile, and there was a possibility that you could have updated something else as well from the profile, right? So that's pretty good. So far, we were able to do some updates. We were not able to find a bug, so which is a bummer here. Let's clear this off. Let's go to another section, which is my transaction. So that should show up all the transactions of me. That's pretty good. Let's take a look at the list of these transactions. Okay. So there are some API calls being made, transaction dot. So it's trying to get some CSS. We are not interested in that. We're trying to get some JSON. Let's take a look at the response. So this seems to be some metadata around. I don't really see anything related to this. So there's a cashback received, magic pin 1960. So these transactions are not being shown up here. So I don't think so the API which shows up this data. So what I'm going to do is take a look at this API. Okay, this I can see there is a lot of data which I can see on my left side. So exactly, it's a flexi wallet cashback, many other data around transaction walls and things like that, right? So see, there's an API which is actually rendering all of it, which is basically rendering all the transactions. So let's take a look in here and see whether we can change anything. So first we need to check this API. Let's some blank text, some handy. Okay. So it will charge some THV and then the list basically it's trying to get nothing else. It does not say for which user and what ID it needs to get nothing else for that matter, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to just I think it is authenticating the session again with that particular FC, that is the session token. So we are going to take this API and just take a look whether we are able to see. Okay, so it's pretty much the same, which is basically being shown up here. You can always try to see and see whether exactly there is some data here which is not present in the UI, right? There could be a place where you would find some information here in the APIs, which is not listed to the user. This is sensitive information, right? It could have your card number, your let's say the card number in these transactions and things like that. So it's your information, but it is not supposed to be shown actually. So that's a bug, right? And then there is another API for get balance. Okay, let's take a look at that. What exactly it is trying to do is it's trying to again give the session v2 and get balance. That means it is trying to actually fetch the balance, which is the total wallet balance here. And there are some request headers, but it does not really say anything about the user ID. So what we learned today is Recharge is totally using the session token to really authenticate the user. It does not really talk about anything where basically in these APIs we can see that there is no mention of the user ID, right? But if you dig enough, you will be able to find some APIs which have some user ID, emails, and then mobile numbers. You will be able to find it for some other users as well, actually. So that's what I would say for now. Let's get into one of the transactions. Let's take a look at this transaction. So I clicked on it. Uh, Here I can see something, right? Here I can see a transaction detail being shown. So if you see, take a look at this URL, right? This is interesting. So this is our first occurrence where actually we see a number, right? It's trying to say this is a transaction detail. Try to show up this information. That's good. But why this particular transaction on right? Let's clear it off, and I'm going to refresh this page so that I can know what all the transactions are. So let's take a look at that. Okay. So it gets a list of transactions as we are aware of. Also, at the same time, it's trying to give us fine. This is one of the API here I can see. So, but it does not really have any response as such. So that's fine. And then some other list of information which we talked about, user theory, list, profile. So I think I would have to take a look at all the APIs, right? So what I'm going to do, take a look at is maybe it's not a fetch XHR API. It just does normal API. I'm going to take this ID, put it in the filter, and let's see if I find something that at least minimizes the number of API calls which I'm taking a look at. So this API which I just looked at, it was failed, did not receive any response. respond anything. And this to be Jasper, so something into Facebook, the free charge actually. So Google Analytics, I'm not interested in that API. Okay, this is another API which is a get call, right? So it is trying to get the call for this transaction, and there's nothing much basically. It has a preview, response is another HTML. Let's try to change it. Let's try to make it 001. That was basically what we were talking about, right? So it redirects back to the original one. That means it is really not allowing me to get access to that 001. Or what if the transaction ID never exists, right? So that could be a possibility. So what we are going to do is to take it a step further, we are going to take this transaction detail and we are going to log into another free charge account that is a different user. I'm already logged in there. Here, this is a different free charge account. What I'm going to try is I'm going to try to basically make use of this URL into this URL. What if I get access to this data? So that's good. It's not allowing me to get access to that data. So when I try to log in there, it maybe finds basically that this transaction exists, but it is not belonging to this user, so we can't really do anything. So we're going to minimize the other account. We're going to basically take a look at this account itself. So it has some view details as well. Let's figure that out. So nothing else. It has some bunch of details. Let's take a look what exactly the API it makes. So when we call view details, okay, it's just basically expanding it. There's nothing much in the API call. These are just slugs trying to actually get some metadata around it. There's no real data actually. There's no real data as such, right? Let's take a look at another transaction. Let's see if we can find something. Okay, this is a good transaction. It says view details. It's the same thing. Let's take a look at another transaction. I'm looking for something where I can find something meaningful, which I can. Okay, this is different, right? It says some UPI ID. It says some other transaction. Says an invoice as well. So we never saw invoice before. Let's clear it off. Let's see whether we can actually click on view invoice. Okay, this is good. What exactly it did is it redirects me to an invoice where the order ID is given, and that's it basically, right? So there's an information being transferred. So what if I go incognito and try to make use of it? So I've never tried it. There's a possibility that I will be able to access it. If that is the case, it's an authentication issue, but doesn't seem like it. Free charge is pretty good in their security. So we were not able to access it without authenticating. That means let's try to change the URL. Obviously, I will this is make it 6.3. Okay, that is good. It says internal server. We don't know, right? We don't know whether this particular ID exists or exactly free charge was denying the access or something else. So let's try some more. Okay, again 500. It's not good. There's something happening wrong in the server. That's why there's a 500 error. But we're gonna keep trying for a while. That's fine. It's not working out. Let's go back to our original invoice, right? So this is our original invoice. What if we try to actually access this URL from a different account, which is not supposed to really see this information, like what was the order ID, what was the transaction date, what exactly the recharge done for, what was the amount? A lot of information is there, right, in this particular thing. So obviously we don't want to have it from a different account, but let's take a look. I'm going to go back to another account and try to access this particular URL. That's good. It says access denied. That means it was able to find this order ID. It did not throw internal surveyor, right? And then it found that this particular user is not even basically have created this order. So that is a good thing. Basically, it says access denied. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back. So we did not find anything so far. We were able to do all of this, but we did not find anything. But we learned a lot of things about free charge right now, and we will continue to actually find some bugs in there. So my transactions is done. There's nothing much what I can really do here. I'm gonna go back to the home section, right? Here we have a bunch of information. So we have a bunch of information like free charge, you can do a recharge, you can do a bill payment, and things like that. So let's take a look how free charge is doing the bill payment. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on mobile posted. Okay, that shows up a lot of information. I'm gonna switch to the fetch XHR so that I can focus on some API. Now what it is doing is it's asking for a mobile number, it's asking for an operator. Let's take a look. So we have a mobile number being given. So it fetches automatically the VI postpaid. That means there must be some API call which I can see. It says operator mapping. Let's take a look at that. We copy as Q, copy it as CURL, which is curl. Gonna go back here and do this. Don't worry about these things. Don't worry about these things. Actually, I will show you these things still the API call will still work if you even miss out on some headers, right? So let's take a look at that. So it's an operator mapping. It's server being provided, and then there is something called MP, maybe a mobile recharge or a postpaid, no postpaid, things like that. We don't. What we are going to do API and call it, and we will look at what exactly it responds. So it says circle ID 3, and maybe from the circle ID, the browser is able to identify, okay, the VI postpaid is circle ID 33. Okay. Let's take a look at modifying this API, getting rid of some of the things. So we are going to basically get rid of the user agent, the platform. These are not really mandatory headers, but it's still like the business logic can still work without it. I would say I'm going to go back and call this API again. It works fine. That's what I'm trying to say, right? So let's go back to the API itself. So there's nothing much we can do here because obviously what we're trying to do is we're trying to actually get the operator of a mobile number. We can change that obviously, and we can actually still find out where this number exists from or where exactly which is the operator of this number. It is on circle ID -1, which could potentially mean that it is not active anymore or something else or free child, right? So we can even try that over here. We can actually change it to 3 and it's a iterator process. Okay, that's fine. We can change it here. The same thing basically, it makes an operator mapping call, which we are doing in the browser. Nothing big we can do. Let's take a look how it is trying to do a recharge, right? I'm gonna take this and go back, click next. So it made some API call. There's a bill amount of 40 rupees. It fetched the bill amount, which is good. So that means let's take a look at that API. Basically, the idea is try to find out API, try to see what exactly the information you're getting out of it, try to see what you can tamper with it, try to see what exactly you can change. And when you do a change, whether that you gives you the same results or it gives you some results which it shouldn't be giving you. That's the idea. So let's go back to this and yeah. So it basically have a mobile number, parameter value, operator ID. So you have something like you can change this and maybe try to find out what exactly that person have the bill amount pending, right? There's nothing else we're changing. So there's something called operator ID, which is being changed, which we got from the previous results. Let's take a look at that. So I'm gonna basically again make a call to 8754547073 in this scenario. That gives me an operator ID of 473. Okay. So I'm going to change this particular API to 473 because that's what it is looking for. And then basically let's fetch the bill amount of this guy. There's nothing wrong in it because you can do it from the browser as well. But we are really looking for something which can actually, right? So, okay, this is fine. This is a bill fetch ID and this mobile number. We can see actually how much bill is pending, what's the date, bill date amount, the bill date number, and things like that. So that's fine basically. There's nothing major. The bill is pending of 13,399 rupees, as you can see, which is pretty good. Uh, but let's go back, right? Let's click on make payment. Okay, then it made some other API call, which you can go back and take a look. So it created something, a block ID. Then it is trying to basically make a call to process post login action, right? So it's making a bunch of calls to make the payment. So in here, you can try to change the ID. You can try to change the amount which is being sent, right? So those are the things basically which I would say you can try out. So this is about the mobile recharge. There are other options as well. There are other options like electricity bill payment. What is this? Rent via credit card, right? So it says basically you can actually pay the rent. You can try to find out what are the other things basically in this API. Let's take a look at. So there is something called home rent, property rent. So don't worry about these rents. The This is not my rent. Actually, it's going to be very small if this is going to be my rent. But yeah, I just added this information so that I can see, take a look at the API. So if I want to, let's say, add other service, so it says enter the amount. Okay, I can enter, let's say, something like 10,000. Oh, then it asks for the PAN number. What if I change it to 5,000? Okay, it does not ask for the PAN number. Let's have it like a test address, right? And enter some pin code. Let's add some random pin code here. Okay, that's a valid pin code. And then it is optional. I can actually make a pin. I can basically add this particular property address. What happens is if I need to add another amount, which is 50,000, okay, that is asking me a PAN number. What we are going to do is we are going to add this and maybe try to update it via API, right? That could be possible. So we added this. There's an API call created for it. Let's say we try to edit this. We make it 50,000. It's again asking for that. What we are going to do is we are going to make it 6,000, okay? And we are going to monitor the update call. So just take a look here. There's an update call happening. This had updated the rent actually to 6,000. I'm going to copy that. So now let's try to add the the amount as, let's say, 50,000, but without a PAN card. Let's try to see. So we see the rent amount basically 6,000, and the rest of the details. The PAN card is being sent as null. What I'm going to do is make it 60,000, right? And I'm going to basically make an API call. Ah, so there's a validation at the backend as well, which is good. Please enter the PAN card details. So let's add some random PAN cards, right? Let's try to add some random PAN card. I'm not sure whether that's a valid PAN card, but let's see. Okay, so it is trying to fetch access to that particular PAN card, but it says the landlord name is not matching with the PAN card. But what the idea is, whether it would have allowed you to make 60,000 without having this validation, then there is a bug, right? So that is pretty much basically for the demo. What we're going to talk about is a little bit, maybe for a few minutes, about how you can report these bugs actually. So this was pretty much about the demo. You can go back, try to find out their APIs, try to see what exactly you can do with the wallet, try to see what exactly you can do with the making the payment of the particular postpaid, try to make a payment of 10 rupees to your postpaid or prepaid, try to see what exactly it is doing, right? As I told you, there is a one bug which exists where you can actually get access to their user details, which I will be reporting in a few days. But yeah, try to find out, try to basically be curious about it, and let's go back and try to see how you can actually report these bugs. What really happens when you found a bug? Try to find out whether exactly they have a bug bounty program. Try to go to HackerOne, Integrity, and Bugcrowd. These are the platforms where you have like Amazon, Uber, all these companies basically have their programs where you can create a report, steps to reproduce it, give all the point of contact, basically proof of concept, and then just report the bug basically. So once the bug is get trials, they will see, yeah, it's a proper bug. They will fix the bug. They will reward you at the bug bounties. So that's pretty good. That's pretty sweet. Yeah. So Ajay,
Okay.
over to you.
Okay, great. I think I'm back. That was a great technical session, Saga. Uh, I think a lot of viewers might have got better insight on what exactly they have to work on, if they have to work on cybersecurity or reporting a bug or working on a bug. So before we go ahead with Q&A session, I would like to just inform our audience that at the end there will be attendance taken for your participation certificates. Okay, and that would be the thing. And yeah, so let's move to the Q&A session. Sagar, I think a question from my end to begin with. As you are basically from software engineering related background and you had worked on it, what is the change that you have taken up related to ethical hacking or cybersecurity or your interest on bug bounty hunting or something like that? Like, what made you to go ahead in that particular stream?
So as a software engineer, right, you build these systems actually, and really to actually become a bug bounty hunter, you or any hunter basically, right? If you really want to find bugs in any system, you really need to understand it, how it might be working on the back end. So the idea is when I really understand, when I'm building these APIs daily, right? I find myself basically trying to see what exactly the bug could be, or how I
Great.
can change the system where actually it will get back to different results. That is one thing where I can actually find the bugs. Also, it makes me a better software engineer, I would say, because I would know that I don't really need to do those mistakes while creating those APIs. So it's basically the win-win situation.
Okay, got it. I think that that is an interesting topic to deal with also as employees or as professionals. I think that might excite you also to work on something which is flaw and come up with a solution for that. So we'll go ahead with the questions of the viewers. Ananya Singh asks about, can you explain about XSS attack and how to prevent it?
So basically, that's the cross-site scripting.
Mhm.
What exactly happens is XSS attacks are very common. You would be able to find them. What happens is, so there's a JavaScript, right? Like a lot of browsers are using JavaScript nowadays.
Mhm.
So what happens is, let's say you can actually do inject some JavaScript.
Mhm.
Uh, for, basically, let's say you added a comment over a Facebook, right?
Mhm.
Over a social media. Let's say whoever sees that comment, if you have basically did or created XSS in that comment and that site has not taken care of it, every person who is viewing that comment will be able to see a pop-up. They can steal cookies from it. They can steal basically. They can or pop up some URLs basically which could be malicious. So what really happens is, let's say you're posting something over LinkedIn and you have an XSS basically tag in it. Every person who's viewing that particular post will be actually vulnerable to it because they will be able to see, you will be able to see themselves steal cookies from it, redirect them to a different URL and things like that. Yeah, it's a very common tag being used. Yeah.
Okay, great. I believe that answers Ananya. And bringing back to the next question, Surya asks, I think this is a general question that even I would like to ask, or most of the viewers might have this question in their mind. In this current era, which all the employees or all the freshers who are getting their interested on MLAI related streams, that their general questions gonna be like, do they have a better future in cybersecurity or ethical hacking related streams if they enter as a fresher? Or else, let's say if they go ahead for continuing their professionalism, or else being an employee as a cybersecurity or ethical hacking professional, like what all things that they need to know or how to start to be a professional on cybersecurity?
Sure. So cybersecurity is a very big domain, I would say. I understand there's a lot of noise and buzz around basically data analytics, machine learning, AI, which is also very good. There's nothing wrong in being a cybersecurity analyst or security engineer with while you're working as an ML engineer or a software engineer, right? There's nothing wrong. You can obviously pursue that as your full-time employment. So you can actually learn things and then move forward in the ladder. But what I'm trying to say is the idea is you being a software engineer, you should also be looking into this because that will make you a better engineer. The one insight which I would like to share here is the person who is the maximum, like the last year statistics says, the person who basically found the most bugs in US, he was able to make around $5 million in a single year. So he don't really work at all. Basically, he just basically works as a cybersecurity engineer. So I would say it's a pretty good money in that you can see whether you're working as a software engineer and still want to pursue this as a passion, which really works as well in this domain. Yeah.
Great. I think that that is a best answer to the viewers, I believe. I think Sohal Bash, I think it had answered your last question also, which talks about monetary benefits, like how much I think a cybersecurity professional can make. Right, so you have a good option to earn a lot. Also, just make sure that you technically and professionally build your skills required to the domain that you are opting for. And which
Just
brings
to
to
add
the
to that,
yes.
yeah, just to add to that, basically like Indian companies as well, like Indian startups like Cred, Ola,
Mhm.
Uber, Amazon as well. These companies basically pay around 5 lakh to 10 lakh rupees in bounties. It's not about, it's basically about the impact that bug will be creating over them. So you might be able to basically make a ton of money from that if you're being consistent and you're really reporting the bug to the in the right motive actually. So
Okay.
that's pretty good, yeah.
Great. So make sure that you build your skill sets accordingly so that you can find the bug and you can report it or else you can resolve the bug by your own. Yep. So moving ahead with the next question, as we have spoken about the skill sets and things related to the ethical hacking and cybersecurity, do you have anything that you can mention it to the audience, which can help them related to what is say certifications or any kind of degrees or that they need to hold to get a better professional exposure?
I'll comment on that. So I will say basically start very slow. Like as we talked about the APIs, right? You either you're a full stack engineer or backend engineer just trying to actually start up your career, right? So I would say start slow, basically using these APIs, learn about XSS, learn about SQL injection. There's a lot of resources on YouTube as well you can find. Once you're able to get comfortable with those things and you're being consistent in finding those bugs, then you can go ahead and pursue basically if you want to really do masters. There's nothing stopping you, but also at the same time, there is no need as such basically when you're trying to report bugs or trying to get into cybersecurity because you speak for yourself.
Okay, got it. I think
Yeah.
that answers. And one more question, follow-up question, Sagar. So basically, as a cybersecurity professional or ethical hacking professional, if anyone is working on these bugs or else, let's say, visiting some websites or something. So when it comes to the security part, let's say if I'm checking or if an ex-person is checking others' website, other company website, like, is it legal to get into the websites by hitting on API codes? How does that work?
So there's a very thin line, I would say. Obviously, first you should check whether there's a bug bounty program there. If you are going to check basically any company, most of the good companies and big forums have the bug bounty programs. Once they have the bug bounty programs, actually you can go ahead. It's legal. Basically, you should be doing it ethically. That's the one idea. You should not be making or violating actually the system while trying to do that. So, and as soon as you find a bug, basically you should be reporting it via their program, which is good enough. So that's basically I would say. It's legal and you should do it in all in ethical form and report it as soon as you find something.
Okay, great. So, audience, just make sure that whatever that you are doing, that is visible to the other company also, so that you won't be anonymous and working on their website or doing the stuff related to hacking. Okay, so that is one part. And Sagar, can you suggest something like if let's say there is a BTech professional who have completed their graduation recently and having a confusion in terms of do they or can they go ahead with the cybersecurity related fields itself, or if yes, what kind of skill sets they need to come up with at least to make sure that they are understanding it or else they are fit for it or not.
So one of the things is basically using Linux actually. So when you actually try to become a professional in this field, right? You you would want to actually be a lot aware about the Linux, the network, how does really the network works, how does the front end systems actually interact with the back end, and all things like that. Wherever you find yourself actually trying to fiddle around the system, it could be your refrigerator. You might be just trying to fiddle around your refrigerator as well, maybe your TV, or the products and services, your applications, right? So where exactly you see that you are trying to do something in that sort where you're trying to fiddle around what is actually like fiddle around the system, you should see that there is some curiosity. And I think like by learning more tools, by learning basically more techniques, you would really want to move forward in that approach. So I would say Linux is one of the things, networking, or like how really the networks actually interact. Those are the skill sets which you would want to really ramp up when you really want to actually become a cybersecurity specialist in that field. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think that answers. And Sagar, in the current trend, I think what we are able to see, crypto and blockchain is the market where which holds a lot of potential in the future, right? Can you relate something to the cybersecurity which can be implemented in the crypto or blockchain world also, or any future in that?
So there is a lot of space basically there. Yes. in crypto or blockchain, I would say, what really happens is there's a lot of transparency. So you wouldn't really find the transparency today in the conventional systems. Today, there's a lot of transparency. The code even on which the blockchain is running is transparent to people, right? So what I really understand is there's a lot of scope because there will be a lot of people who can actually easily find bugs when you really understand the system. Yes, so because of the transparency, you will have lesser bugs because there will be people who will be able to easily find those bugs. But at the same time, when the bug is there, you would be able to report it to different blockchain communities, which are really thriving, right? So they will be able to compensate you, I would say, if you are able to find those bugs. But it's a good space. It's a new space. I am also working on basically trying to find some bugs there, basically which also generates a lot of learning curve as to conventional system. Yeah, I would say.
Okay. Great. I think that answers. And along with that, Sagar, like a lot of viewers or whoever is looking for uh, job roles related to cybersecurity or ethical hacking, like can you suggest few of the what to say companies which might be pretty good for the viewers or pretty good for the audience to take a note on or else to find the job role in the particular domain?
So I would say pretty much every company will have the cybersecurity specialist engineering teams actually.
Mhm.
Uh, but at the same time, I would say if you're really looking for working at a company which is let's say Amazon or Uber, they have pretty much good engineering teams and they have a lot of cybersecurity or ethical engineer basically teams as well.
Mhm.
That's one space where you can actually target the companies itself. Even Zomato, Paytm, everybody has secure cybersecurity teams. The other thing is you can also try to focus on HackerOne or BugCrowd. Basically, these are platforms which actually takes your bug reports, try to triage them and see them, and they also build a lot of tools and products around it. So that could be another space like companies like BugCrowd or HackerOne or Integrity, where you can actually go and find out a lot of roles related to this and apply them directly.
Okay, great. So viewers, you can just take a note on that and follow the things that Sagar had mentioned. It might help you out for your future. And Sagar, last follow-up question from my end, that would be, as a PayPal professional, can you just let me know like how things are that you are working on, let's say related to the daily tasks that you are doing, or else what interests you in terms of bug bounty hunter, or what kind of projects that you usually deal with that excites you the most?
Okay. So to be honest, basically at my work at PayPal, I'm not doing bug bounties. Basically,
Uh-huh.
that's my passion, which I do over weekends. So that's
Great.
what I really want to encourage people.
Uh-huh.
It's not about basically what exactly you're building at your employer.
Mhm.
It's more about what exactly your passion lies, and maybe you want to do it over the weekends and things like that. But at the same time, at PayPal, what we are doing is we are trying to build a data platform,
Mhm.
basically which helps and leverages data scientists and data engineers across PayPal globally. So we are building a platform and product suite actually, which is leveraged by these data engineers. They leverage a lot of cloud like Dataproc, SparkJob, BigQueries. So we are trying to actually build a whole pipeline and data product suite for PayPal actually. So in my day-to-day task, I would say I do a lot of design, build a lot of APIs, do a lot of backend development, products and service, and then scale them up. So that's what pretty much at work what I do. Yeah.
Great, great, Sagar. I think that answers a lot of things. And viewers, I believe you have enjoyed it and you have understood the things that we have explained. Sagar, for our viewers and the audience who want to see you and who want to hear from you, any last, what to say, suggestions or anything that you want to address it to our audience?
So what I would say is it doesn't really matter what exactly you're doing. Maybe you're a computer science engineer or maybe a computer science graduate, right? In the third year or second year of your college. Or you might be a person basically professionally working in one of the company from last 10 years. What we are trying to really say here is you might be a tester as well. You might be in testing domain or development or a QA. You could be anything or everything related to software, right? The idea is really to be curious about it, be curious about the system. So today we discussed about how you can actually see those APIs and test them and change them. So it's more changing something and then seeing how does it respond, how does the services respond. So if you find something big, then this is your pitch basically to cybersecurity.
Okay, great. Uh, Viewers, I believe this was an interactive session and you had a lot of insights that you had looking for, and I believe we could answer a few of your questions and most of the things that you are looking for. And that would be the thing from our end for today. This was the session on cybersecurity and bug bounty hunting, and Sagar Jain was the professional who had provided you with the insights to work on, and he had given you a lot of information related to the companies that you can deal with or how you can work on bug bounty hunting, and a lot of other informations also. So yeah, thank you so much, Sagar Jain, for being with us and providing your time, useful time, and giving insight for our viewers. Thank you so much again, Sagar, for sparing your time.
Thank you, Ajay, for being the awesome host, basically.
Thanks so much. It's my pleasure. Students and viewers, so basically, which brings to the last part where uh, the attendance and the outcome of the program. So, as today's session was on cybersecurity and bug bounty, and it was just an introduction part to make you familiarize with the concept which might interest you, or few of you might have questions in your mind related to cybersecurity. Do I have to go with that? Do I have to stick on to the things that what you are doing? Are you really good in that or not? So all the questions that you have, so you kind of get an answer over here, where you can streamline yourself or you can create a roadmap for your future. Either you want to work on it, or else if not, what other things that you can deal with. So this was the initial webinar by Sagar Jain, and you would be having this kind of similar topics or similar webinar or podcast from our premium mentor Sagar Jain in the future also. If you are interested for it, please subscribe and stay tuned. We would be going ahead with a specific season, either related to cybersecurity itself, or else whatever thing that you guys are interested in, and we'll come up with episodes related to that. And one more thing that I would like to address it over here is giveaway sessions. So once we start our series of individual topic that might interest you, we will be having giveaways for our audience who perform well in terms of Q&As, or in terms of some assessment, assessment that we'll be doing it. We'll be revealing it in the future sessions. Thank you all audience for sparing your 1 hour time and being with us. And I'll be sharing the attendance form in the chat. You can fill it up. It's already been shared. And one more announcement, there are going to be 1 or 2 more webinar in the upcoming week by different professionals. You can check out our social media handles. That would be the better way to get yourself updated with. And you can definitely check out our mentor's LinkedIn page, Sagar Jain. I think if possible, I'll try to add Sagar Jain's LinkedIn handle also in the chat. Okay, so you can check him out and you can follow him for better updates, or else if you have any questions or any insights that you are looking for related to cybersecurity, bug bounty, or any other things, you can definitely do that. I think you would be a better person and a humble person to provide you the answer. And yep,
Sure.
that's all from my end. Thank you, Sagar, and thank you all. Uh, Thank you for making this session a hit, and we'll see you soon in the upcoming session. Thank you all, guys. Have a safe evening. Bye bye.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Visit Verzeo.com, subscribe to our channel to know more. Thank you. Visit Verzeo.com, subscribe to our channel to know more. Thank you. Visit Verzeo.com, subscribe to our channel to know more. Thank you. Visit Verzeo.com, subscribe to our channel to know more.